So let's get right on into TWIG. All right, folks, welcome to TWIG. This is the Week in Geek, our weekly geekly news show that we do here on Checkpoint Church on our Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Checkpoint Church, every single Thursday, except actually for next Thursday. Next Thursday will be a little bit weird. I haven't decided if we're going to take a week off from a pre-record or what it's going to be, but we have annual conference. If you don't know, we're in the United Methodist Church system, and so we have an annual conference every single year, and that happens to be next Thursday. So a little bit on the fence about how that'll work. Maybe I'll pre-record it and put it out on Thursday anyway, or maybe we'll just skip a week. Time will tell exactly what we do. If you want to find out that information, then you should check out our Discord. If you're watching us on Twitch, !Discord is always the best way to go. If you're watching us on YouTube, which, hi YouTube, you can always check the chat down below where I'll make sure that all those things are linked. With that, we're going to get right into the show with our first segment. With that segment, we want to do an introduction. So we normally ask people in the chat, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you playing? And one of those folks that often answers the question over in the chat or down in the comment section on YouTube is actually here with us physically. So we'll just go ahead and let Perispectus introduce himself and tell a little bit about what he's watching, what he's reading, what he's playing over the past week. So welcome in, Perry.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I'm Perry, or Ryan in real life, from the great state of New Jersey. I think I'm like the sole representative of the Northeast corridor, at least in this spot.
Well, we don't have anybody else that's willing to claim it, I think is what it is. So if there are
that's
other
true,
people that
yeah.
just don't own that part of themselves like you do. Yeah.
They're a little more ashamed of their Jersey heritage. But yeah, so the past week, it's been a good one. Reading, I've been working my way through the audiobook of 4,000 Weeks, which is like a realistic time management book. Which I've been trying to make time to read as an ebook for like months, and finally just decided, you know what, I'm going to try it as an audiobook, and I'm like halfway through it already. So it's been great. It's really been a very eye-opening book for me. So really enjoying that read. Also working through level 2 book club Grace and Gigabytes, and waiting to get my copy of the Checkpoint Book Club book, which I'm forgetting the title of. It's the T Robot and Monk. T Monk and Robot? T Robot and Monk? I don't know.
The Psalm for the Wild Built, or a Psalm for the Wild
Psalm for the Wild Built. That's it. Yeah, so looking forward to reading that with y'all too. And then, so I was watching. I had a really good watch this weekend. There's a YouTube channel called People Make Games. They're associated with a group that has their own non-YouTube app called Nebula, which is just for like video essayists and sort of like informative YouTube creators to do like their own ad-free, non-censored, non-DMCA takedown version of their videos. And they did a 2.5-hour documentary, like feature-length documentary on Zaum, which is the studio behind Disco Elysium, and just the ongoing legal and personal conflict going on there that's been going on for the past couple of years. They interviewed a lot of folks who were involved in that. It was really eye-opening, really interesting story. Not conclusive because they're still going through the legal battles right now, but really, really helps to kind of get a sense of like what was going on and how things have been going down for that. And then playing, I've been working my way through a game called Requiem. I'm not sure how to pronounce it exactly. But it's a little sort of like story-based RPG Maker type game. It's been really good. I've been kind of chipping my way through that. Inspired by your game earlier this week, Nate, I picked back up Danganronpa 2, which I'm restarting since I only got through the first day the last time, so I'm working my way through that now.
Subjectively, the best Danganronpa, so I'm excited for you. I don't know about if the community all agrees, but it's my favorite Danganronpa.
You mentioned that, so I'm curious to see how I feel about it after I get through a bit more of it, because the first day in the game is a little interesting, very different from the first Danganronpa. So curious to see how that changes. But and then a really fun one that I did yesterday, actually. My daughter, who's 4, has been recently just interested in games and things like that. She started playing Pokemon Scarlet Violet with my wife on the Switch. But she had apparently asked about like wanting to make a game out of a thing she does with her friends at school. And my wife mentioned to her like, oh, well, you know, your dad can make games. He's done programming before. So they went to the library and got a book on making games in the game engine Scratch, which is the one that MIT put out, sort of like web-based, very like visual programming and stuff. And so yesterday, she and I went through the first lesson, did the sort of like intro game, and then she wanted to make her own game. So we made a little game where you're a penguin who collects stars. That's the whole game. But she was tickled that she could make choices about what it was, and then we would just make it work and, fixing bugs. And she was just having fun with it. So, that was a cool experience. I really enjoyed that. I'm hoping we do more of that stuff.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a ongoing sentiment over on the Discord that we all just want Perry to adopt us. We want Perry to be just the group dad because he does the coolest projects and is always bringing out those cool things. And I love that initiative of taking a book, making a game with your kid who's only 4. That's just insane. That's awesome. So I love to hear that. I am actively, some of our things are really well connected, which is unsurprising given that we're also typical life twins. We typically are doing the same thing and into the same kind of stuff. I did watch Spider-Verse, which I will rant and rave about to anybody that will listen. Definitely anticipate a nerdy sermon on that upcoming. I commented yesterday during our lunch on Discord that I could probably write like a dozen sermons on that movie. It was so good. So I will continue to hype up that movie any way that I can and will. But I also, related to the documentary that you're watching, something about YouTube and documentaries has become like a new fascination of mine. And so I've been watching, it's called Psych Odyssey. It's this like many part analysis into Double Fine and how they created Psychonauts 2. And so it's just, there was so much drama behind the development of that game. And they did like a documentary on how everything came to be with that. So very similar, very up your alley. I would recommend it to you. It's kind of making the circuit on game devs right now. So fascinating to hear any game and how it's produced. I wish we had that kind of content for old school Nintendo. I would love to know like how that stuff came to be and the boardroom conversations. Also reading, of course, A Psalm for the Wild Built. I just started that one and excited for it. I'm also watching all of my anime, and of course one of them is Noko, which is hopefully going to be our sermon this upcoming Sunday, assuming I'm able to get it all together. But I've been catching up with the anime, and I got so hooked on the anime that now I've started reading the manga. I've bypassed where this season is going to end, and I'm almost caught up with where the mangaka is. So I've read like 40 chapters of this manga in the past week. I'm totally like hook, line, and sinker in love with this manga. It's so problematic. Has some really risque stuff in it. It reminds me of like 90s risque movies where it's like they push the envelope almost too far and you're like uncomfortable with it. So it's got a lot of that in it. So beware of like tons of content warnings in this manga, even compared to the anime. But whoo boy, am I in it for the mystery. And I want to know all the things. Starting with like episode 8, I pieced together one of the mysteries and I was like, oh, I love this, and now I'm like totally sold. So I'll be interested if anybody else watches it. It's called Heavenly Delusion. It's easier to spell than the other one. You'll be able to find the other one based off of Heavenly Delusion, and I highly recommend it. And playing, I finished Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know how to feel about it. I'm very sad that it's over. I want to give it like 6 out of 5 stars. It has revolutionized how I view games from this point on. And that's like the way I see it. And then I've started playing based off of RNGesus. For those of you that don't know, you can always follow me on Backlogged. I have all of my games that I want to play backlogged on there. And I leave it up to the RNG, the randomly generated numbers system, what game I play next. And the one that queued up this time was Disco Elysium. So I will be playing Disco Elysium. I've tried this game before. I've already caught up to where I was. I did not make it far in the first go round. So we'll see if I'm able to push through. I'm so curious about it. It remains to be a game that requires so much focus. And I don't really like to give a lot of focus to things because I just don't have time. So that will be the trick. And I'm going to try my best to push through and keep on playing it. But once I do, then I've got to watch your documentary that you're watching. So folks, do let us know in the chat. What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you playing? I already see Sneaky Pigs has dropped. Playing lots of Diablo 4, reading Words of Radiance by Sanderson, and watching nothing much at the moment. Rock on. And Sneaky, I will absolutely drop the link in Discord if you'll remind me. I'll try my best to remember, but sometimes my brain works and other times not so much. With that, we're going to get into some of the trending headlines, some of the things going on in the nerd world right now, some of the things that we've noticed along the way. Since it is one of our first episodes of the month, we like to try to talk about all the new games that are going to be coming to potentially free networks, depending on what things you're subscribed to. So we'll start with Nintendo, then work our way into PlayStation, and then work our way into Xbox. So the new games coming to Nintendo Switch Online, particularly to their virtual console system, is we're getting Harvest Moon, which I'm hyped about. Kirby Tilt and Tumble, which is a Game Boy game in which you would literally like physically move the thing to tilt and tumble Kirby around. Mystery Tower, which is also known as Tower of Babel, apparently, on the NES. And then Blaster Master, Enemy Below on the Game Boy Color. I don't know like any of those games. I know Harvest Moon, obviously. I've never played that one. My first Harvest Moon was A Wonderful Life, which we may be playing later this month. Hint, hint. And then Kirby Tilt and Tumble. I mean, all the Kirby games are cute and adorable. PlayStation Plus, the games this month are Jurassic World, NBA 2K, and then Trek to Yomi. Trek to Yomi has been on Game Pass for a while. I did not enjoy it, but I'll be interested to hear if you guys do. Got a real Kurosawa vibe and a good enough experience. I thought it was a little lacking in the end, but the actual build up to the story is really nice, and you may enjoy it. And now Xbox Game Pass.
So right now we've got Chicory, A Colorful Tale, Far World Pioneers, the ever-popular Car Mechanic Simulator 2021.
I can't stop playing it.
Yeah, I mean, it bypassed it. They didn't match up in 2022. Slayer's X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer. That was a lot of title.
Yeah, so many
The
cool
Big
ones.
Con.
I also love that they spelled it incorrectly in this article that we copied it from. I don't think I deleted the letter E. Vengeance is just misspelled on IGN, which is
just spelled that way.
Or GameSpot. It's just so GameSpot.
I wonder if the title got so long they forgot to autocorrect it.
It's true. It's true.
So Slayer's X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer, The Big Con, Amnesia the Bunker, and Hypnospace Outlaw. And then dropping today are Rune Factory 4 Special and Stacking. Later this month, June 13th, we've got... I'm going to try to pronounce this. I apologize in advance if I butcher this. Dordone, I'm going to guess.
That's good enough for me. Dordone. It looks like cologne, but with D-O-R-D in front of it.
It's either Dordone or Dordone. I don't know. There's no accent on the E, but I'll go with Dordone. I like that one. And then, sadly, we have a few things leaving Game Pass on the 15th. Those will be Bridge Constructor Portal, Chorus, Man-Eater, Mortal Shell, Serious Sam 4, and Total War 3 Kingdoms. The last one just being a PC exclusive.
Yes. Yeah, and folks, I will do my best to remember to post all of these show notes over somewhere on the Discord so that you can access them and see what all these are coming to and when they're coming out there. I see that Cam already typed in the chat, Chicory is fun. We played that on stream. We also played a little bit of that here on Checkpoint, so you can find that on our VODs channel probably, maybe. But that was a really good game. I enjoyed Chicory a ton. It was definitely a contender last year for one of the narrative games, and it did it well. I think it told a good story and was an entertaining thing to watch. With that, we're going to get on to our next segment, which is a Poke Protest. For those of you that missed this news, it kind of slipped under my radar, and I found it after the fact. The Pokemon Scarlet and Violet tournament in South Korea was canceled after the 4 finalists decided to protest issues within their community by using Pokemon that only knew the move Metronome. This move in Pokemon is unique as it fires off a completely random move, making the final matches dependent on chance. The Pokemon Trainers Cup was canceled as a result, and the finalists lost their Day 2 pass to the World Championships. The protest was motivated by players' frustrations with tournament administration, including the lack of in-person events, continuous problems in the tournament system, disregard for younger divisions, and inadequate compensations for issues caused. So, all things told, it sounds like a pretty tame protest. I'm definitely pro peaceful protest, and the way that this was handled, it's kind of hilarious. It's like it's one of those things that all at once you want to laugh, but at the same time you kind of want to be like, well, I also want to take this seriously. But this was a good little backstab to make it to the very last round of this thing and to have snuck in just by the end of things the move Metronome that nobody was expecting, to all do it at once and to make it a completely random winner is a pretty good way to stick it to the man in a pretty peaceful way. I do hate that it was almost immediately squashed, it sounds like, by the administrators and by the people behind it, but it made news, so at least we know about it, and it got the word out there. I would not have known anything about the South Korean Pokemon competition without this article, and that things are not going well there. I don't know if this is byproduct of COVID or if this is just big company being bad, but it sounds like there needs to be a pretty big turnaround there. What did you think whenever you read this one, Perry?
Yeah, similarly. I mean, obviously, when it comes to stuff like this, you want to kind of stand with the folks who are protesting. I mean, I know there's something similar going on with Riot and League of Legends right now. Different issues on that side of the fence, but similarly, players who are very much the lifeblood of these types of events, feeling like they're not being represented well or not being treated well, and making a point to either do walkouts or do things like this where they're making a point to kind of disrupt and draw attention to things. So I'm definitely in favor of sort of supporting what they're doing as the people doing the work for these events and making them happen. So it's a shame. I do wish that they had found a more reasonable way to resolve this than just kind of putting the kibosh on it. But I'm glad they did it. Hopefully, more things like it, if things like this occur, normalize a little bit, and hopefully we'll start to see some change in these types of events going forward, and a little bit more equity and a little bit more proper treatment of the people who are playing and making these events happen.
Mm-hmm. And it actually goes really well into our next article, in which we kind of talked more about how people are not being adequately represented by the people that they are supporting and creating content for.
All right, so next article is from IGN. This is on Twitch's Backlash regarding the third-party branding update. So Twitch, the popular streaming platform, is facing backlash and calls for boycotts from streamers after announcing significant changes to its rules for branded content. According to the new guidelines, on-stream logos will have to be reduced to 3% of the screen size. Burned-in video, display, and audio ads will be prohibited. Streamers will be required to display a new disclosure for branded content, with non-compliance potentially leading to an account suspension. Streamers, including Asmongold and the co-founder of influencer network and media company OTK, Tips Out, criticized these changes as being financially damaging to content creators. Twitch has acknowledged the negative reaction and committed to clarifying its policy to better support streamers' ability to work with sponsors. Now, I don't know if you caught this one, Nate, earlier today on Discord, but it did seem like there was already a major retraction on Twitch's part. They pretty much said, we are not going to do any of the things we just said we're going to do, which is, I think, a big win for the people doing content creation and streaming on Twitch. But similar to, I got similar vibes to the D&D walkbacks from, I guess it was late. Is that this year or last year? I mean, time just means nothing anymore.
I have no idea. It was recent, in the last year.
It was recent enough, yeah. But it feels very similar. Like, we're going to do this big new thing. All these new rules are going into effect. You're going to just have to deal with it. And then immediately, we're not actually going to do it. We're going to tweak this. We're going to make it better. Just wait. And then, nope, actually, we're not doing any of it. And it's been interesting to see that evolution. And it just happened with such a short time scale. I mean, it was within, I think, a day or two of this news article dropping that they've already walked it back entirely. I'd love to understand a bit more of what the thought process was here, especially given such negative reaction from the community, both streamers and the people who watch. I think a universally panned decision. So hoping that the coming weeks and months will bring a little bit more clarity as to how this came about, and if not this, then what is going to be, what will the changes be? What will the new rules be? Because undoubtedly they will revisit this in the future, and hopefully give a little bit more thought to how they do it before they approach this type of thing again. But I'm glad for the streaming community, because these types of things are really negative for streamers in terms of being able to be in control of the things that they advertise and that are associated with them, rather than just relying on the platform's advertising setup itself. So I think it's a big win for the streamers there.
It's been an interesting back and forth. I think that you're right. It did happen very quickly, but Twitch has gotten good at making these decisions really quickly. They turn things around like nobody's business. They've become like naturals at this point, and maybe that's a bad sign because they're making so many bad decisions that need to be turned around. But I am glad that they at least retracted this in the way, shape, and form that they did as quickly as they did. The reality of Twitch is trying to make it profitable, I think. And I think they're still dancing around the possibilities there. I can remember whenever YouTube updated their ads policy, and it was pretty controversial. They made a big claim because there were a lot of people that were kind of sneaking in ads without disclosing. And so Instagram and Facebook made a very similar move a couple years ago, where now you have to be super forward about disclosing that these things are ads and that you are advertising to people. And it's interesting to see. I hope they don't walk that one back, because they did walk back a lot of the screen size stuff, the burned in stuff, the display stuff, which those requirements, honestly, I mean, that's that's just like icing on the cake. The real thing for me that like made the difference is disclosure. And I say that because of gambling. That's one of my big things with like Kick in particular is like Kick refuses to acknowledge that it is a gambling platform. And people that support it are supporting gambling. So there's this acknowledgement that needs to happen in these spaces whenever it comes to advertisements that is just totally unmonitored on the internet. And so I have a feeling, I wonder how much of this decision was Amazon, how much of this was financial, and how much of this was maybe even some pressure by Google for advertising. That they were feeling some of that pressure of like, you need to watch out because you guys are skirting the rules. And so I think that it goes hand in hand. I think a positive way of looking at this is this was probably Twitch trying to be better about appealing to disclosure and being upfront about things. They just did it in a way that also felt skeevy and like they wanted our money. And so it was a weird back and forth that I've seen between a lot of streamers. It seems like all the streamers that I follow unanimously agree this is bad, but I'm not so sure it was totally founded in money. I think there might be something here. Well, it's all in money, but there is something here that is maybe trying to protect the consumer and the chatter that we're not acknowledging. Yeah, and I don't know. I think that's where I kind of land on this, is trying to see some good in this situation. I'm glad that Twitch walked it back because that helps the streamers. But at the same time, I hope that some of this content got to the attention of streamers that are maybe just accepting brand deals at the drop of a hat. Maybe we don't all need to be supported by energy drinks. Like maybe there's something that we need to say and be upfront about in regards to who supports us and how we're supported and how we're making sure we're being responsible with that audience that we've been given through this platform. So absolutely. That's an interesting angle, I think. I'd love to hear people in the chat or more on your take here, Perry, about what do you think about some of the good that came out of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to why some things like this it's a shame that they kind of go down the way they do in terms of like just the introduction and then the quick, drop and then retraction thing, is that there's good pieces to a lot of these things. Even when I used the example, that D&D thing from a while back, there was some good stuff in the new license policy that would have been really beneficial to both, Wizards of the Coast as well as the community. The problem was, and this is sort of like what you see when, talk about like, pork spending and like bundling things together and like legal stuff, is like, you pass a bill and it's supposed to be about one thing and then there's like 18 other things that get tacked onto it that have nothing to do with that main thing. That's sort of what this feels like. You've got, an intention, maybe a good intention, to put the kibosh on something like, basically sneaking branding into content and not disclosing it. I mean, that's a big issue on most social platforms. You mentioned YouTube. I know it's a big thing on like Instagram and Twitter as well, where you need to disclose when you're doing sponsored content. And people get around doing that all the time through really sneaky and not ideal means, like definitely like moving things under the radar to avoid having to, do them properly. And I think having rules around that is important. I think making sure that we don't see things, basically people kind of bypassing the rules of how those things are supposed to be disclosed, so that way people know that they're seeing something that is sponsored versus something that's just an authentic opinion or something like that. But the problem is then you bundle that with like a bunch of things that are really like stepping back in terms of like the way these types of things can be implemented. Like it is a one step forward, 2 steps, 3 steps back situation. And now we have none of the positives and now the bad taste in our mouths of having been introduced to the possibility of those negatives. And so, it is to your point, I hope we can see the positive aspects of this come back around in the future. Like that it's not just, oh, we tried this, it didn't work, people didn't like it, so we're just going to do nothing about it. Like I do hope they do something about it. That's just not the unsavory parts, but more about, protecting the people watching and making sure that people follow, legality around these things. Right. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the backlash continues and what kind of comes out of it. I have a feeling it won't be much, but hopefully we see some good results out of this, and Twitch will make some good steps forward. It's interesting because I think they were making some real good steps forward with adding in vertical integration, doing a lot of different things on their like actual like creator side and creator capabilities. So very weird turn. I think that Twitch makes some interesting decisions along the way, but we'll just see how that continues to pan out, and we'll keep an eye on it here on Twig. Speaking of keeping an eye on things that have changed pretty drastically that may have slipped under your radar, last week we talked about how Grace Van Dien was joining FaZe Clan. This week, she left FaZe Clan, and it's a pretty gross situation. I'm not going to get into the full drama behind it. I've had ChatGPT rewrite it for us, so we'll see what it includes and what it doesn't include as far as the drama goes. But Twitch streamer and FaZe Clan owner Norden Rain Shat and streamer and Stranger Things actress Grace Van Dien have been involved in a controversy. Rain had been publicly criticizing FaZe's management for exploiting and underpaying long-standing members while signing celebrities with no gaming background and paying them higher. This discussion took a heated turn when Rain leaked that Van Dien would be signed to FaZe. He suggested that she was signed only for her celebrity status and not for her gaming abilities. The backlash grew after her signing was officially announced. Both Rain and Van Dien engaged in public arguments on Twitch and Twitter, leading to Van Dien threatening to leave FaZe. Recent activity on her Twitter account suggests that she may have already left the organization. Again, don't want to get too much into the drama behind the thing, but I do think there is a sense of irony in that Grace last week kind of talked about how she was seeing this as an opportunity to fight back against misogyny and on female gamers, and it seems to have done the exact opposite and instead revealed the ugly head of misogyny that continues to be pervasive in spaces like this. To be clear, Grace was not being signed on as an esports person, but as an entertainer for FaZe, for their entertainment brand, and I think this is where Rain either got confused or upset. To give some background on that, FaZe a couple years back was kind of bought out. They kind of went public, and whenever they did that, they were taken over by a bunch of bigwigs. And so a lot of the original gamers that started it and started as an esports thing are still upset over that decision. Seems pretty clear that Rain is one of those, and unfortunately chose to take his aggression out on a new kid on the block whom he probably shouldn't have done that to. So it's been an ugly thing to see continue happening, and it kind of has revealed our continued need to encourage female gaming, because just because Grace was not an esports champion doesn't mean that that is limited to one particular gender or the other. And regardless, that isn't the expectation that was put upon her and should never have been. So I think what we have here is an evidence of a deep-seated tendency towards misogyny mixed in with the bitterness of finances and things going public. So there's a lot to weigh in here, and I'll encourage you, if you're curious about this and want to know more about the drama, then you're welcome to look it up and to find out more information about it. But this is not drama alert, right? I'm not here to necessarily weigh in on these things. I just thought there was a sense of irony since we literally brought this up last week, and then it so quickly backfired, not unlike a Twitch decision. Thought I should at least mention it so that everybody was up to date on why it would appear Grace is no longer a part of FaZe.
FaZe has been one of those things that I've been aware of, and every time I look into it, I just shake my head. So this is just the latest in a series of things that makes me shake my head about that whole enterprise. I do hope Grace finds a better landing spot than where she was destined to go there. Hopefully it gets to the point of, realizing that vision she has, because I agree. I think, it is a very male-dominated space, and it's important that we have a diversity of voices and people involved in doing this stuff. So I do hope that she's able to achieve that vision and finds a way to do it that's maybe a little more productive for her, gets to the results she wants, because I think it's better for all of us in that sense that we get a little bit more out there. But yeah, that's about all I got on this one.
Yeah, it's a really nuanced situation, and it's unfortunate that I chose to highlight this last week and it would so quickly backfire. But I hope, like you said, hope that Grace does make those steps forward towards combating misogyny along the lines of a Pokimane or someone out there who's doing it already, and that Grace can enter that field and continue to put the best foot forward and hopefully get out of this mess as clean as possible. That we're going to move on to our next one. Yesterday was the Worldwide Developer Conference, and so we're going to talk about all the highlights, all the things that kind of were announced. I did choose to use a meme there. That is the one of their people wearing the new Vision Pro, which we've learned costs $3,500, and the tweet says she had to sell everything to get that. And so just the blank walls and, of course, the beautiful beige room that she's in, because nothing else matters at this point. So we're one step closer to that form of Ready Player One. So we'll go through all the things that are kind of happening. We'll start with the Vision Pro AR headset, which we're seeing here in the meme. Slim down headset aims to facilitate both virtual reality and augmented reality, priced at $34.99. Vision Pro is designed to operate like a wearable MacBook. It supports various popular Apple apps and will be coming with a new operating system.
Next up is the 15-inch MacBook Air. The new MacBook Air will boast a 15-inch display, an M2 chip, and a 6-speaker sound system with an 18-hour battery life, and is 40% thinner than its predecessor. it will retail for not $3,500, but $1,299.
The upgraded Mac Studio will be getting a significant upgrade, now supporting M2 Max and Ultra processors. Also support up to 8K resolution with 240 hertz frame rates.
That we've got the next edition of iOS 17, which will introduce new features such as personalized contact posters, video voicemails, live voicemail transcription, and more. It also introduces a new standby mode, which will turn the iPhone into a smart hub when connected to a charger.
watchOS 10, the new watchOS 10 introduces widgets and several fitness and health tracking improvements.
Next up, macOS, which will be getting a new game mode for improved gaming performance, as well as Safari security upgrades and FaceTime integration with Apple TV.
iPad OS will be allowing for greater customization of lock screens and introduce a feature called Live Activities.
For those with AirPods will also be getting software upgrades to gain features like adaptive audio and conversation awareness.
Their Apple Health app is now going to begin asking users standard psychological questions and will begin screening for depression and anxiety.
Missed that one. Cool. And then we've got screen distance feature. In order to help combat myopia, Apple has introduced a feature that will notify users when they're holding their phones and iPads too close to their faces.
That's my favorite one.
It's fantastic.
That's my favorite one because all I want to happen is I want like a grandma with curlers in her hair to pop up on the screen and be like, "You're too close to the TV. Back away. It'll melt your brain, kid." Like that's what I want out of that exact feature. And if it's anything less, I'm gonna be dissatisfied.
It's just be the new Siri voice is
yes,
curler in her hair grandma.
It's gotta be. I mean they've already got the like avatars, so they can create that pretty easily. So yeah, that was the WWDC highlights, all the things that came out of it. The obvious highlight that everybody's been talking about is definitely the AR headset, and totally download that voice. We'll make it for you, Sneaky. I'll see what I can do. I'll sit in a booth for 6 hours or whatever and record all the words that you've got to. Yeah, it's an interesting turn of events that has taken place. I'm not on board with the Vision Pro. We've had our debate over on Discord about where we kind of land on this thing. I am a known Apple hater. I have had an Apple product. I've had many Apple products in the past, and I left them because I was dissatisfied. And so we'll see how they continue to pan out. I think that the obvious like hallmarks that everybody's been talking about is the price. People have been memeing the eyes. Something that wasn't mentioned in the little blurb that we put on here is that it actually will show you the person's eyes so that you can know if they're looking at you or what they're looking at, or I guess whether they're asleep. I don't know what else you would use it for. And it actually is not transparent. So it's not showing you their eyes through the thing. It's not like it goes hollow like they seemed to imply. Instead, it is a camera feed of your eyes. And I don't know. I just don't like that. I don't like the camera of the eyes. It makes me a little uncomfy, but maybe it'll work out how people want it to. Yeah, the place we've landed on this, it seems, is that this is a professional piece of equipment. I still am skeptical about whether people not will use it for professional purposes. We have the occasional niche group, one of our members who does use this for meetings and things like that. But there's nothing in me that could possibly want to sit through a Zoom meeting with VR on my face. That's just not something for me. So I don't get it, but I think that some people will get it. I think a lot of people will pay this price point because it's Apple. And I think that a lot of people also have iPhones that can't afford them. And so I'm always of the point of like, maybe we should stop doing harm with the luxury brands. But that is really the only place that I land as far as a do good, do no harm, strive to grow. Most of my takes are extremely subjective and biased. So any thoughts on Vision Pro before we look at any other highlights on there?
Yeah, I mean, you know my opinions, Nate, from our active and lively conversation on Discord. But yeah, I think I'm probably more in the centrist camp. I have a handful of Apple products for work and personal use. I also have non-Apple products like a Windows PC. I've been on Android before, so I'm not, platform exclusive. So for me, it's more about what does it look like it's going to do? What's it going to change? I think probably what I see here is, with VR kind of hitting a bit of a plateau recently, this is probably going to reignite some interest in it. It's going to show a different perspective on it because most VR stuff to date has been so hyper-focused on entertainment, but only to a certain audience. Like there's a very niche set of folks who have been engaged in VR. I think there are other ways to use VR that haven't been maybe as prevalent. I'm thinking about like, job training and more like professional use for it that I think kind of went under the radar because of the emphasis on entertainment. So the fact that Apple is billing this as a professional piece of equipment that's going to be used for various things, that it's including AR specifically. I think that's been their big push, is they don't want to limit it just to VR, but also to augmented reality, which I think is actually probably the more interesting of the two techs, especially when you think about on-the-job training, like being able to point to a specific thing that you need to do in a real life scenario and saying, go get this thing and attach it to this thing. That type of stuff is going to be, I think, a lot more interesting as it develops. And that's the thing, is like version 1 of this is the test bed. This will be the one where a bunch of people are going to buy it, and they're going to talk about how great it is, and they're going to talk about all the things it could do, and then we're going to get newer versions of it, hopefully cheaper, hopefully not that expensive, but we'll see. And then hopefully, we'll see a lot of copycats. We'll see a lot of people kind of jumping into the industry to do stuff in it, and hopefully that'll start pushing the boundaries of it. But yeah, day 1, probably not something that folks need to jump on, but year 2, year 3, like I'm expecting it'll probably start to like push things in a direction. They seem to have their finger on the pulse of this type of stuff, so I'm gonna be curious to see if it pans out or not. I do not hope we get a Ready Player One world, though. That is my one. My opinions on that too. So
that's my thing as well. As I have been concerned about people that are just hopping on this because it's Apple, and are just like, this is going to be like the Oasis. And I'm like, it was not a good place. It was not where you wanted to be. And I think we've missed the point somewhere along the lines, and maybe we've gotten distracted. I'm hopeful in the same way that you are, that this will be an innovative step forward. Sometimes Apple is on the cutting edge, and sometimes they miss the mark, just like any other company and any other media and tech brand does. And so I hope that this is a good step forward. I hope that this is a positive step forward, and that this is something that is able to revolutionize the business industry. And I'm open to it. I'm open to the possibilities, but I do want to diffuse anybody that feels like they have to have this because it's Apple or because it's a branded product of your favorite company. You do not need this. 99% of people do not need this. Maybe you will want this eventually. Maybe you'll get something like this eventually. Maybe they'll innovate in a way that completely doesn't make sense. But I wouldn't put your bets on this one. I would say unless you absolutely know that you will use this for a regular work purpose, get yourself a Meta if you really want to play games on VR. And if you really want to see what a virtual desktop is and see how often you'll use it, again, pay $500 for a Meta, try it, and then return it, because you're going to realize that you won't actually enjoy playing in the browser settings. It's not fun. It's too heavy on your face, and you don't actually want these screens around you. It's just as easy to have screens. So we shall see. Anything else that stood out to you from this one, Perry? I think that the health and the screen distance thing is intriguing to me. Fitbit has been doing the psychological screening for a while, so again, glad to see that Apple has finally joined the trend, and that will be a good thing going forward. I think that we always need people to be checking in on mental health, and especially with just the wide berth of people that use an Apple product, hopefully we'll actually log into Apple Health and do that on the reg, because it is a good thing to kind of keep track of. But other than that, a pretty underwhelming WWDC for me. Just kind of the standard fare of, we've improved this thing, we've put new chips in this thing, we've introduced a few new apps and ways to use this and widgets, but for the most part, those were the highlights.
Yeah. The updates seem to fall into innovate or iterate, and I mean, apart from Vision Pro, it seemed like it was a mostly iterate type update, which every couple of years they go through the cycles. Something gets an innovate, a couple other most other stuff gets an iterate, so I think this one's largely iterate. So I mean, the Vision Pro is the most interesting thing to talk about here for sure, but I do agree with you. The screen distance stuff and the Apple Health stuff is probably the most interesting, but by far not like anything crazy. So
I was intrigued the MacBook Air has an 18-hour battery life. That impressed me, just because I had a MacBook Pro and it was not that good. Granted, the Air and Pro are two different models, but that's pretty impressive to me, and I'd love to see them maybe put some of that energy into the Vision Pro, which has a 2-hour lifespan. So
I want to see what the actual, like, once people get their hands on the 15-inch, I want to see like what the real life version, because those battery specs are always a little optimistic. So we'll see.
That's true. Sneaky makes a good point. They did seem to really like casually slip in, and we're using the M2 chip. And we're using the M2 chip. Like every single time they were like, this new product will have the M2 chip. So they were definitely a little Sly Stallone there, throwing things in every now and again to make sure that people remember, hey, we have this new chip. It's crazy fast, and you'll enjoy it here. And we didn't mention they actually developed a new chip that will go in addition to the M2 chip into the Vision Pro. So that's intriguing. They're starting a new chip line, the R1 series. We'll see how that pans out. So Exciting stuff. Okay, well, be sure to let us know in the comments if any of the WWDC excited you. If you are planning on getting a Vision Pro, don't. And if you are planning on getting the Vision Pro and won't listen to me, then do tell me how it is. And with that, we're going to move on to our next one. This is Summer Games Fest week. So for those of you that don't know, Summer Game Fest is what Jeff Keighley now does over the summer instead of E3 and all the sort of things that he was involved in. And now E3 has died and Summer Game Fest thrives. So clearly Jeff Keighley is the MacGuffin that makes things move. In lieu of, since this has been kind of a long one already and we still have more to go, we'll just go over the schedule real quickly and encourage you to hop into our Discord, where we will at the very least be watching the opening showcase today starting at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We will be watching that, so if you would like to join us for that, we'll be watching it together. But there's also plenty else going on during this, so I'm just going to pound through this showcase and all the things that are happening. I'm going to use date and East Coast time, so if you are not of those times, again, these show notes will hopefully be posted, or you can just go to the website, summergamefest.com probably, and you can find all the information there. The Guerrilla Collective Showcase will be kicking things off, interestingly, today at noon. Summer Games Fest, again, will be at 3 o'clock today in our Discord. We'll be watching it live together, chatting it up in the watch-only channel. Day of the Devs, which is a yearly thing that I usually like to be a part of. Maybe not this year. We'll see. We'll be at 5 o'clock almost immediately following the showcase. Devolver Direct will be after that at 6 o'clock Eastern. The Accessibility, which is a clever name. The Accessibility Summer Showcase will be tomorrow at 11 Eastern. The Tribeca Games Spotlight will be at 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. The Wholesome Direct, which wasn't planning on being at, but probably will, because I love that. The Wholesome Direct is going to be at noon on Saturday, immediately followed by the Future Games Show Summer Showcase at 1 o'clock Eastern. The Xbox Games Showcase and Starfield Direct that everybody is very excited for will be happening Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. The PC Gaming Show will be at 4 p.m. on Sunday. Ubisoft Forward will be at 1 p.m. on Monday. And the Capcom Showcase will be at, 6 p.m. on Monday. So those are all the things coming your way and all the exciting things happening. If any of those really excite you, let me know. I can hit the ones that I'm most excited about: Summer Games Fest, Wholesome, Xbox Games, Capcom. Those are my 4 that I'm most looking forward to. And Capcom is really just for Ace Attorney, and it's going to be all Resident Evil, so I really don't care. But I will watch it purely to see if Nick shows up, and that'll be my extent. Did any of those stand out to you? Oh, and Accessibility. The Accessibility Summer Showcase also really excites me. What stood out to you on that list, Perry? Anything?
I mean, all of it. I'm really excited to check out some of the, I guess, the more indie showcase stuff, like Devolver is always going to be interesting to me. The Accessibility one is definitely one I'm curious to check out. Wholesome Direct for sure. Probably going to be watching them a little bit time shifted, because a lot of that's during the workday for me. So we'll see what I'm able to watch live, but definitely curious to see what comes out of it, because, I mean, we had a bit of a lackluster start to the year in terms of stuff that came out of some of these showcases. So I'm hoping we can get a little bit more energy and excitement from the next one.
Absolutely. Rock on. With that, we're going to move into our next segment of the show, which is To the Discord, where we go to all the things that you have submitted to our Discord, or to bit.ly/DearTwig, DearTwig. If you want to submit news there, go to that link, submit news, and we will try to get it featured on the show. We do have one that's kind of been pushed to next week, but we will be talking about it eventually with the Reddit API stuff. So that did not make it in this show. If you're looking forward to that, anticipate that either next week or the week following, assuming next week is off. But with that, we're going to get into some of the things that we are talking about. First off, Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 got an unexpected trailer dropped this past week, talking about their release date and some other exciting things. So, newest installment of Nintendo's Pikmin series, Pikmin 4, is set to release on July 21st, as per a recent trailer. The adorable real-time strategy game comes a decade after its predecessor, Pikmin 3. I can't believe it's been a decade. And features the return of Captain Olimar, who needs rescuing along with his stranded team this time around. For the first time in the Pikmin series, a character creator is introduced, allowing players to customize their own characters, including aspects such as skin color, facial features, and an ID badge. These features can be adjusted at a later stage in the game as well. While there are no pre-order perks for U.S. customers, those in Hong Kong and Taiwan will receive a unique Pikmin-themed drink cover. I don't even know what that means. Maybe a koozie? Despite this, the game, priced at $60, can still be pre-ordered and is eligible for the video game voucher. So if you took advantage of the video game voucher, you can get this as your game. And yeah, that's Pikmin 4. I will be playing Pikmin 4 on stream for sure. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Love Pikmin. And I will definitely at least start it here. I'll probably finish it on my own time, but I was excited to get the date. I don't know if we knew, I think we knew summer, but I don't know if we knew July 21st. So that's pretty exciting. It's like right there, and it's right around the corner. I will probably just be finishing up Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life, or excuse me, Story of Seasons, and playing that then. But I'm excited. I think Pikmin's going to be great. I really enjoyed Pikmin 3. I know it was kind of a hit and miss with a lot of people. Same with Pikmin 2. Really, people haven't captured the magic since Pikmin 1 in a lot of folks' opinions. But I've enjoyed all 3 entries into the game, and I will probably enjoy this 4th one just as much. Initial thoughts with ID badge means it's probably going to be online. Maybe. That makes sense to me. I don't know why else you would need an ID badge other than to have an ID. And who cares about the ID in the NPC world? Nobody. It's got to be real life people. So that's my theory. What do you think, Perry? What are you excited for?
I was excited for you. I shared this purely so you could talk about this because I knew how much you love Pikmin.
I'm super hyped. I mean, the dog is obviously the most fun part of it. Getting the new little creatures will always be fun. All the new types of Pikmin is going to be a good time. It's just a fun game. If you've never played Pikmin, do yourself a favor and go find the original Pikmin somewhere out there. I don't know where you'll find it, but good luck and find it and play it because it is such a good one, such a fun time, and I highly recommend it. And if you want to watch us play it here on Checkpoint Church, then if you haven't, followed us, twitch.tv/checkpointchurch, and we will be streaming this probably on July 21st. I don't know what day of the week July 21st is, but if we're streaming, we'll definitely be playing it. If not, then we may do a bonus stream. We'll find out. Or it'll just be pushed into the next week. So that is exciting. Let us know your thoughts on Pikmin. If you're a fellow Pikmin fan, welcome to us. We are a small community, but we are proud. With that, Perry, I'll let you read the next one for us.
All right, next one, Wordle Golf. New York Times is launching a new competitive variant of its popular word game Wordle called Wordle Golf. How many times can you say Wordle in one sentence? Similar to the original, players must guess a hidden word in as few steps as possible. However, with Wordle Golf, players will compete against friends over a 9-day period, recording daily scores on a downloadable scorecard. The player with the lowest cumulative score at the end of the period is declared the winner, hence Wordle Golf. The Times has introduced additional rules, including penalties for missing a day and spoiling a word for others. I was super jazzed to hear about this because we recently started talking about Wordle again in chat and in Discord, and it got me thinking about Wordle again and wanting to play Wordle again, and now seeing that there's a competitive play with friends version of this is incredibly exciting. I'm a little sad it wasn't Wordle with friends, but I guess that was probably already taken.
Yeah, I'm very
interested
the idea to see if they implement it into the UI, or if it just remains a thing that you download and do on your own. I'm tempted to do it, but not if I have to do it myself. I'm lazy. Is what I'm getting at here, and so I want to do it, but it'd be way more fun if it would do it for me and have it all together so that you could kind of compete with friends that you've friended through your NYT account or whatever. You know, I haven't been able to find anything other than a scorecard.
So that might be a way to also get people to sign up for the subscriptions too, because you can. I think Wordle's still free to play for non-subscribed users, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So they could pull a Nintendo and be like, you can't even play with friends unless you pay for our account, and that would be a way to connect it in. So we'll see. I think we'll probably try this over on the Discord, especially now that we've officially talked about it here on Twig. So we'll try it maybe under Geek Out or something and do our own little 9-day session and see how it goes. I am playing Wordle every single day. I'm back into it hardcore for the past month. And I'm doing good, feeling good about it. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. If you'd be interested in playing Wordle Golf along with us, then hey, !Discord. Join our Discord. I'll try and make a little announcement about it here in the near future, and we can play that together. With that, our last to the Discord, Diablo 4 has gotten its official update from Blizzard talking about their sales. Blizzard's Diablo 4, despite its initial login issues since its launch on June 5th, which I think is hilarious that ChatGPT chose to include that because, hey, what game doesn't? Set a new record as the developer's fastest selling game to date. According to a press release, the game topped pre-launch unit sales on both console and PC, outpacing the sales of previous titles such as Overwatch, Hearthstone, and StarCraft. Between its early access release on June 1st and the official launch, players have already logged 930 million hours of gameplay. Bunch of nerds. Diablo 4, set 50 years after Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls, allows for players to customize their gameplay and experiment with skill trees. The game, available in standard, deluxe, and ultimate versions, ranges in price from $70 to $100, and you can also order a collector's box that Kotaku would love to sell you. So interesting stuff there. I think that Diablo 4 is not my kind of game, but we've definitely seen a bit of a boost in our community. A lot of people are interested in it and want to play it. As Sneaky mentioned in his Play Watch Read from this week, there's a whole lot that has been done, and a whole lot of people are playing it and logging those hours, clearly logging up to 93 million hours of gameplay since its release, which is just not long enough. I don't know how you did that, but you did. So I don't know. Are you hyped about this at all, Perry, or are you just sharing this for the community since there are so many?
Sharing it just because it was something I know a lot of folks in the community were talking about. I've never actually played Diablo, but my brother played Diablo and StarCraft for a while, a few years back, and got really into them. So I'm aware of the games. I'm familiar with some of the lore and some of the meta around it a little bit just because of that. But I saw that it was something that was really, catching fire, and the fact that it, hit this sort of like a record for Activision Blizzard here seemed like a pretty big deal. So tossed it into the ring.
Absolutely. Well, let us know in the comments if you have any thoughts about Diablo 4, other than the fact that, hey, good job. Great. We love that this is going well. I hope that you're enjoying the game, and I hope you're having fun with it. And I think the community is pretty interesting. So I know Crossfire has their own clan. So if you want to clan up with them, yes. Crossfire Faith in Gaming is out there. We'd love for you to join up with them and play along. With that, we're going to move into everybody's favorite segment of the show. Hang on first, bit.ly/DearTwig, DERTWIG. With that, we're going to move on to everybody's favorite segment of the show.
At this point in nerd history.
What are the movies that have come out on this day throughout history?
This week in nerd history, 2018, the movie Hereditary, which is great, but definitely not a recommend for everybody. No. 2012, we got Prometheus, the sort of prequel, sort of reimagining of the Alien franchise. And back in 2001, we had the movie Evolution, which
is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen the entire thing myself all the way through, but I've seen it's been pretty great. So, and
it
I know a lot of
those random movies where I had a PS2 at the time, and that was my one way of getting anything in my room. I didn't have cable or an antenna or anything in my room, and so I would leave movies on repeat while I slept on my PS2. And it was one of the movies that I had a DVD of that I kept on repeat. So it's very funny to me that you would say you've never seen this, because I bet I've seen Evolution in my dreams upwards of 400 or 500 times. Just an absurd amount of times that I've watched this movie. I have a major man crush on David Duchovny, and so that was where this all kind of started from and spawned from. And the movie's just absurdly ridiculous, probably insanely problematic. I would not recommend, honestly, any of these movies. All three of these movies are for a very specific person, really. Hereditary is incredibly dark, Prometheus is incredibly heavy, and Evolution is incredibly raunchy. So, a pretty funny lineup of movies here that they all kind of happened on the same day. That will move into games that have come out on this day throughout time and space. In 2021, I wish that maybe 30 was here, because he would definitely appreciate Backbone. Backbone was first released in 2021 on this day in history. In 2006, this is not really video games, but still games, they released the Nintendo Monopoly over here in the States, where you could play as characters such as Mario, Link, Donkey Kong, Samus, Fox McCloud, Yoshi, and Kirby, but you're playing Monopoly. I still see that for sale at my Walmart. And then 1999, Conker's Pocket Tales, so the Conker story that's not quite as raunchy, released on the Game Boy Advance. And then 1991, Final Fantasy Adventure, the first Final Fantasy game for the Game Boy, was released in Japan. So a pretty cool and exciting list of games there at the very least, even if the movies might have been a bit more controversial. Actually, no, kinda. Same. Backbone is pretty controversial. I don't know if I'd recommend that to everybody. And Conker's Pocket Tales, if it's going to get you into Conker's Bad Fur Day, maybe be careful. And then, Final Fantasy. You can't go wrong with Final Fantasy, but enjoy that. That has been...
At this point in history.
Cool. All right, we're going to move in to our next segment, our penultimate segment here of upcoming releases for the week, things that are going to be coming out in the next week in movies, TV shows. We actually have one comic and then a bunch of video games. So for movies, Ben Kingsley is starring as Salvador Dali in a movie called Daliland. So if you're interested in the art of Salvador Dali and you'd like to learn more about it, told by Ben Kingsley, who is a fantastic actor, then check that out. Coming out tomorrow in the movie Scene. Now with you, TV shows, Perry.
Coming up on the 14th, we've got The Crowded Room, starring Tom Holland, Amanda Seyfried, and Emmy Rossum, as part of an anthology family drama exploring the true and inspirational stories of those who have struggled and learned to successfully live with mental illness.
And despite the stacked cast and seemingly interesting story, as well as based off of a book that was like critically beloved, doing truly terrible in the critical reviews. And also Tom Holland has said once again he's going to be taking a break from acting after this one. So not the first time that Tom has threatened such a thing, but it seems like Tom is becoming a bit notorious for having a bad experience with acting. With that, comics, Xeno, or maybe Gino, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, Xino, is having a comic book compilation. So it's a surrealist sci-fi storyteller who has compiled some of their best works into this one universal comic. So coming out on the 14th, Xino. And then we'll go with games. I'll let you start us off with our first one.
All right. So on the 8th, which is today, we have Harmony, The Fall of Reverie, MotoGP 2023, Pro Cycling Manager 2023, Speed Crew, and sorry, I just found it's funny because it's the third bike-related racing game, Tour de France 2023.
And two of them are bicycles specifically. I think it's really strange. Like it's whatever the Phineas and Ferb quote or whatever. It's like it's not weird that it happened twice or whatever, that we got two bicycle games out on the exact same day. Strange. Yeah. Yes, Transformer Rise of the Beasts is out today as well. Some games that came out on the 9th, coming out tomorrow, Cat Souls, which looks kind of like a platformer. It is not Dark Souls, but cats. It looks like a platformer with cats. And then Grey Hill Incident. Then on the 11th is Trip World DX. Looks kind of like an iOS game, but the director's cut, I guess maybe they included more levels. And then on the 12th is Brew Pub Simulator. If you've ever wanted to brew your own beer but want to do it virtually, there you go. And on the 14th, we have 3 games coming out: Creature Lab, Daydream, Forgotten Sorrow, and Dubium. Not much known about any of those games. Kind of a slow week, really. Not too many exciting games coming out, except for Harmony, The Fall of Reverie. That's really the only one that I'm excited about. For those of you that don't know, that is Don't Nod's latest game. Don't Nod, behind Life is Strange, who will be playing True Colors here as soon as this is done. Came out with a new game. Looks like a pretty emotive storytelling like they usually do with some great characters. And we'll see how it does. I definitely plan on playing this one. I haven't decided if I'm going to play it on stream or what I want to do, if I want to hold off a little bit, but Harmony Fall of Reverie is pretty much where I land. Any of these standing out to you, Perry?
I mean, I was excited about Cat Souls until you told me it wasn't Dark Souls with cats. So.
Not Dark Souls with cats, unfortunately.
You just squashed my hope for the day.
Week. We have these every now and again where a lot of games just don't, for some reason, happen right now. I'm not quite sure if it's because summer is like just kicking off, and so they assume that everybody's going to be busy on vacations. I don't know. Or maybe they're all just waiting for Summer Game Fest, which of course is happening today at 3 p.m. Discord, watching it together in the Watch Only channel. So you could be there watching it with us. With that, we're going to get into our final segment of the show, which is, of course, our Meme of the Week. The Meme of the Week this week actually from myself, and it is a tweet that said, only ADHD, and then it had this picture on it. It is the "you wouldn't steal a car" meme, but instead it's "you wouldn't finish a task." I saw this, I felt it deep in my soul, because I think I was actually doom scrolling through Twitter to get away from my tasks that I needed to do, and it just felt like the perfect little twist of irony. So, you wouldn't finish a task. If you can feel that, my ADHD brothers and sisters out there, yeah. It is a hashtag mood, as they would say. With that, we're going to wrap up the show. Perry, anybody that you want, any place that you would like to send people to find you or to check out your stuff?
Yeah, I was going to say I'm writing for To The Point once a month. Also got a Substack of my own called I'm Between Things, which I am also doing roughly once a month. I'm a little behind on last month's. It's now June, but working through some stuff there, and hopefully some more stuff dropping soon. More to say, but for now, just those things. And donate to Checkpoint Church. It's an awesome place.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. Perry is our like lead creative in our Discord space, always burgeoning whatever is the new creative thing to do, whether it be working around the house or woodworking, or whether it be creating blogs or Substacks, or whether it be making games or writing books, any of that kind of stuff, putting forward NaNoWriMo. So if you're a creative spirit, find Perry, and odds are you'll be in a good spot. And that's always a good place to be. With that, we're going to wrap this up with our 3 things that we believe are true about every single one of you out there. So if you're watching here on Twitch, be sure to say hi YouTube, or bye YouTube, rather, as we close up the show here. If you're watching in YouTube and you made it this far, be sure to click that like button for me, let you know that you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on the podcast, maybe join us next Thursday on our Twitch live stream, or go find the video, click that thumbs up, leave a comment, let us know that you appreciate this kind of content where we can see it and get that algorithm boosted on up for us, or leave a review. Any of those sorts of things we would appreciate. With that, as I said, going to end these with our 3 things that we believe to be true about every single one of you. Whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, go to church, don't go to church, we still believe them to be true about every single one of you. Number 1, that God loves you, like really, really loves you. Number 2, we love you. We want community with you. That's what we're doing here on Twitch, Discord, YouTube, podcast, wherever you may be finding this. And number 3, that you, yes, you matter. You are a person of sacred worth. The world is a better place. Why? Because you are in it. Folks, with that, until the next time that I see ya, thanks for watching. Bye-bye!